Now, our next speaker is Ryleigh Jones, a junior here at Aurora High School. She works at the Aurora Kennel, and she's here to talk to us about the horrors of puppy mills.
How many of you guys own dogs? Okay, well, if you're anything like I am, we all have been in the exact same situation, where we're scrolling through our social media, and all of a sudden, the absolute cutest puppy comes up on our screen. Well, before you go out and buy your dream dog, there is one thing you should know. More likely than not, that puppy came from a puppy mill. There are 10,000 puppy mills in the United States alone. These can be licensed and unlicensed by the USDA. And yes, there are licensed puppy mills by the USDA. Puppy mills are large-scale breeders that care more about their profits than the overall health or genetic health of the puppies that they are producing. They want to maximize their profits while minimizing their costs. One way they minimize their costs is by keeping these dogs in horrific conditions. These dogs are oftentimes kept in small cages with little to no access to fresh food, fresh water, or veterinary care. They are oftentimes standing and sleeping in their own feces, which makes them incredibly prone to bacterial infections, and these infections can lead to loss of eyesight, loss of limbs, and even loss of life. So these dogs are kept in these horrific conditions. And to show how prolific this issue is, there are over 2 million puppies sold annually that originate in these mills. Additionally, 90% of all dogs that are sold online or in pet stores come from these mills. And there's a phenomenon that occurs within these puppy mills. It's called the popular sire effect. The popular sire effect is when you have a single male dog or a handful of male dogs that father all the puppies that a breeder is producing. What this does is it increases the frequency of these recessive genetic disease-causing traits in a single population. And let's take a look at how this can play out. So this is Frank. Frank is a show dog. He's a wonderful dog. He's won competitions, he's beautiful, he has a great disposition, he's wonderful with people. So naturally, a lot of people want his puppies because if he's a great dog, he is surefire to produce a bunch of great puppies. However, unbeknownst to Frank's owners or the potential puppy parents, he is a carrier for some sort of recessive genetic disease-causing trait. Now, this trait will not cause a genetic disease unless it's paired by another trait from the mother. So, Frank has a lot of puppies. And as you can see, the frequency of these traits has increased. But these are just Frank's children. And as of right now, no one is displaying symptoms of these genetic diseases. So nobody even knows that this increase in frequency has occurred. However, if you look at the second generation, these are Frank's grandchildren. And now you still see the increase in the frequency of the recessive trait, but at this point, you see a few individuals who now display the symptoms of the genetic disease. However, this is only 4 out of 30 individuals within a population. So nobody's that concerned about it because it's not statistically significant enough to really raise any eyebrows. However, if you look at the third or fourth generation, then you see an even greater increase in the frequency of these traits, and now you see more individuals who are showing the symptoms of these diseases. And this can easily be traced back to the fact that Frank was overbred and he increased the frequency of these recessive traits within the population and therefore increased the chances that these traits can become paired. So let's take a look at a specific case where this has happened. The Golden Retriever is ranked the third most popular breed in the United States by the AKC. Because the Golden Retriever is such a popular dog breed and fits in with so many lifestyles, it makes them a common victim of puppy mills. So they are a common victim of the popular sire effect. Well, today, golden retrievers live to be 10 to 12 years old, which for a large dog is not that uncommon of a lifespan. By our standards today, we would actually say that's a pretty good lifespan. However, if you look back in the 1970s, then you see that golden retrievers lived to be 16 to 17 years old. That raises an interesting question. What has caused this 25 to 30% decrease in the lifespan of these golden retrievers? And the number one culprit is cancer. 60% of American golden retrievers will die of cancer. And the leading types of cancers in golden retrievers are hemangiosarcoma and lymphoma. Hemangiosarcoma is a type of cancer that is vascular and usually begins on the spleen. Because it is vascular and it begins on the spleen, it has an excellent blood supply and grows very quickly. It eventually grows and expands to the point where the cancer is all throughout the dog's body. And by the time veterinarians diagnose hemangiosarcoma, it is already too late because the dogs do not display symptoms of this particular type of cancer until it has spread to the point where there's little to nothing that they can do medically for the dog. The second leading kind of cancer in golden retrievers is lymphoma. This is a cancer that attacks the bone marrow and the white blood cells of dogs. So a lot of times these dogs have weakened immune system and they're very susceptible to secondary diseases. So I have actually had my own personal experience with hemangiosarcoma in a golden retriever. I would like to introduce you to my dog, Willow. So Willow was my family dog growing up. I quite literally grew up with her because we got her when I was 4 years old. She was the best dog anyone could have ever asked for. She loved everybody and everything, and she especially loved food. However, in January of 2018, my dad just so happened to be home from work one day, and he noticed that she was acting very lethargic and not wanting to eat, which again was very unusual for Willow. And so he took her up to our primary veterinary office, and they took an x-ray of her abdominal cavity, and they discovered what they thought was a mass on her spleen. However, you can't really be too sure with an x-ray, so they recommended that we take her up to an emergency vet hospital, which is what we did. We took her up there, and they took an ultrasound of her abdominal cavity and confirmed the diagnosis of hemangiosarcoma. The cancer had progressed so far that she had a tumor encapsulating her spleen, one the size of a softball on her liver, and the beginnings of other tumors in her lungs. So there was nothing we could do for her that night, and we ended up having to put her down. Willow's story is not an uncommon one. In fact, it's actually very common. Again, because hemangiosarcoma is the leading type of cancer within golden retrievers, and they do not display symptoms of this particular type of cancer until it's too late. However, there is hope. There are actually two bloodlines of golden retrievers, the American bloodline and the English bloodline. And there are actually some physical differences between the two bloodlines. As you can see, the English bloodline is white, they are shorter and squattier with thicker heads. The American bloodline, on the other hand, is the yellow, pale golden color we think of when we think of a golden retriever. They are also taller and leaner. But besides from the physical differences, there are actually some genetic differences and how they fight off cancers. So English golden retrievers actually have a rate of cancer that's a little under 40%. So again, this raises an interesting question. What has caused this discrepancy in the cancer rates? Why are English Goldens having cancer at a rate that is 2/3 the rate of American Golden Retrievers? And most researchers think that this can be linked back to how these two bloodlines were bred and developed. In England, they have stricter breeding regulations than we do here in America. In England, you have to register both the mother and the father. You have to have health checks on both of them before you're allowed to breed them. And the mother is actually limited in the number of litters she can have in a year and in her lifetime. So a lot of these regulations that exist over in England and in Europe have not existed in the United States until recently. And even then, it's only a few states that have actually adopted these regulations, and it's not a nationwide standard yet. As a result of these regulations, there are only 400,000 puppies sold annually that originate from these puppy mills. And I know this seems like a large number, but when compared to the over 2 million puppies sold annually that originate from puppy mills in the United States, it's less than a quarter. So as a result, these dogs over in England, in the English bloodline of golden retrievers, they're not experiencing the popular sire effect and the watering down of their genes quite to the extent that the American golden retrievers are here in America. And as a result, they are better equipped to fight off these cancers and to prevent the growth of cancers within themselves. Ooh, no, go back. There we go. So, why should we care about this issue? Why should we care about the research of cancer in dogs, and why should we promote this? Well, I would say this. A lot of the cancers that our dogs are developing are very similar to the cancers that we as humans are developing. They live in the same environments as we do. They drink the same water. They breathe the same air. They're exposed to a lot of the same carcinogens that we are. So if we are able to promote and further cancer research in dogs, we may very well be promoting and furthering cancer research in humans. If we find that a cancer in a dog has a genetic basis, we may find that a similar cancer in humans also has a genetic basis. Now, I know that we've been talking a lot about cancers and puppy mills and mortality rates in dogs, so I wanted to leave you guys on a little bit of a happy note. After we had to put Willow down, my family quickly decided that we wanted another dog. And to us, the choice of breed was obvious. We had fallen in love with the golden retriever because Willow was such a great dog. So I would like to introduce you to my new English golden retriever, Sailor. Thank you.